Symbolics Code 12, number 2, page 5, part 2. In Revelation 20 we find that the devil is to be cast into the bottomless pit, and he must remain bound there for 1,000 years. We as Adventists have been taught that the earth is the bottomless pit, a prison house for the devil during the millennium, and that the angel who has the key to the bottomless pit and who chains the devil there for 1,000 years is Christ. If Christ is to have the key at the commencement of the millennium, then he must have gotten it some time before. Our subject for today on the trumpets may throw light on that, for Revelation 9 says that locust came out of the bottomless pit after it was unlocked by the star, which fell from heaven to earth, and the Bible calls Christ the bright and morning star. From our study to this point, we may conclude that the star in the fifth trumpet must represent Christ, but let us now further check our interpretation to see if it's correct. The star being designated by the pronouns he and him, and is coming to earth from heaven, clearly identifies the star as a heavenly male being. He also had the key with which to open the bottomless pit. When he opened it, smoke and locusts came forth out of the pit, showing also that the pit had been a prison house for the locusts until they were released. The command to the locusts was that they should hurt only those men who have not the seal of God in their foreheads, which shows that they were friends to God's people, since it is the devil's aim to hurt. God's people, then the locusts having been freed by the star and commanded not to hurt the sealed ones, shows that they were friends of the star, and the star was a friend to them, and therefore the star could not be none other than Christ. Our next step is to ascertain who the locusts are, and when Christ released them from the bottomless pit. In Revelation 12 we have a description of the dragon. At the time Christ was born, he had 7 heads and 10 horns, signifying that all the kingdoms, 10 horns of the world, and all religions, 7 heads, were serving the dragon. Had he not conquered the Jewish church too, he could not have the 7 heads. When the dragon conquered the Jewish church, God's people at that time, that gave him 7 heads. The very fact that the Jews were the ones who had Christ crucified furnished evidence that the Bible correctly pictured them exactly where they were, with the dragon. Seeing then that the devil had all the religions of the earth and all the kingdoms of the earth, represented by the 7 heads and 10 crowned horns on his head, then how much was not the devil's? It was all his. This being true then for God's true individual people within the church. The earth had indeed become a bottomless pit, a prison house. There was only one way of escape for them, and that was for the star to come down from heaven and open the pit. That being true, then whom do the locusts represent? The Christians. The fifth trumpet therefore sounded when Christ came nearly 2,000 years ago. We find ourselves therefore living in the period of the sounding of the fifth trumpet, the Christian period, before the sounding of the sixth trumpet. But now in this before the sixth angel sounds his trumpet, some men are to seek death, and they will not find it, and would desire to die, and death would flee from them. They just could not die, for they would be immune to death. Since we understand that the Lord is going to find a living church besides those righteous who are lying in the graves, then from that also we can easily conclude that if these people during the fifth trumpet could not die, then they will live through the sixth trumpet too and never die. Find out what will make these men immune to death, we shall refer to Revelation 7. I doubt that we need to read the chapter, because every one of us is so well acquainted with it that we can almost quote it, verse by verse. You recall that there were 4 angels stationed on the 4 corners of the earth, and they were to hold the winds from blowing on the earth and the sea and the trees, until the servants, the 144,000, are sealed. For when the winds are loosed, they will hurt, after they receive the seal. Though the winds will blow, but they will not hurt the sealed ones, for they have received perfect and absolute protection from all harm. Let us read about a man who long ago received a seal of protection.